Helicopters in Battlefield 2042 are without doubt the most powerful vehicles in the game. There is nothing that can be compared, and it doesn't matter if it's a stealth helicopter, attack helicopter, or even a troop transport. They all carry vast firepower and their mobility is unparalleled. This is great if you're a pilot or if you mount a gun in the helicopter spreading your load all over the map. Naturally, helicopters should really be, as the prime predators, the most hunted species. We could use guided Liz rockets, but standing still for long moments of time has never really been my melody of playing. Instead, we use M5 Recoilless and tanks. The M5 Recoilless really is a good hunting weapon. Sure, you have to lead a shot, so it's a mind game. You against the pilot. What is the pilot going to do next? Sometimes several seconds away. But once you get it right, it's superb. Well, that's a lot of people. Another up for the Recoilless is that it's a weapon that can be used for distance sniping or simply blowing out the nest of players. It's probably the most versatile piece of equipment in the entire game. But I'll say that for another video. The other props that are suitable for hunting helicopters are tanks. DICE made the tanks fairly weak in Battlefield 2042. Turret movement is heavily impeded, the effectiveness of the main gun is limited towards other ground vehicles, and the trade-off is significant if you set it up for infantry. Therefore, the splash is very limited as well. But against helicopters, it's just very powerful. You sometimes need to use the environment to tilt the gun up a bit, but what? But then it's just awesome. Projectile velocity is probably not the greatest, and fire rate is a bit so-so as well, I suppose. But once you get a hang of it, look at that! Sometimes it happens that for whatever reason, your projectiles don't register. That's been a problem for Battlefield 2042 since the start, and even though it's much better now, it becomes quite clear when the fire rate is a handful of shots per minute. Clearly, that sucks. But don't get bogged down by that. The satisfaction of hitting the next shot is just so much better. Come to think of it, you can actually set up tanks, right? So what do we want in a tank that goes hunting helicopters? First of all, we don't want a trigger-happy dude or dudette in the firing station going all bananas on the helis. You don't want to attract too much attention. After all, you are vulnerable, and contrary to real life, your gunner is never going to bring that heli down. It will just tickle the bad heli belly, and then it will fart in your general direction, and you will wish that you were alone in the tank from the start. But on the other hand, looking up into the sky all the time, it makes you vulnerable to infantry or other ground vehicles. So a gunner that can keep eyes on the ground can be worth all the pennies in the box. I find the Recoilless and the tanks to be the most fun and most useful way to go when hunting helicopters. But there are so many more ways to go. The era when everyone tried to Liz is long past. And when the weekly missions trigger everyone to revive in smoke, the helicopters are becoming increasingly arrogant. This means that, for instance, C1 on exposure is becoming a good spot for assassinating helicopters with C5. There is also the classic old school method of sniping the pilot, which also gives more XP now. Thanks, DICE. So, at the end of the day, don't cry in chat, don't yell at your audience, grab the helicopter by the horns and show who is the man. Can I say that now? Is that okay? Who is the woman? Is that better? Who's your daddy? Who's the master? Nah, that sounds a bit too much Star Wars, doesn't it?